In this video, we'll be talking about Amazon listings click-through rate and how to optimize to get more sales. And my guest today is Chris Rawlings from Sophie Society. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, man? Happy to be
Well,
back. Excited
yeah,
to dive deep into this topic. Let's rock and roll.
yeah, CTR,
CTR,
click-through
yep.
rate. Yeah. And before we dive into some good content, as always, let us know what you do, Chris.
Yeah, so I am a Amazon multi-million-dollar brand owner myself. I've started, invested in, partnered in, or served hundreds of brands by now since I started in 2015. Yeah, so now I run Sophie Society, and we serve brands by running their Amazon ads and helping them get better conversion rates. And we also, invest in and take equity in our favorite brands that pass through our doors. So yeah, I'm also a leader and a mentor in the group 4 of Titan Network mastermind for Amazon sellers. And I coach the 7 and 8 figure sellers in there. So yeah, so it leads me to the place where I've seen the topic that we're going to talk about today, seen the dramatic impact it can have on brands when they do it right. And I feel like it's not really talked about much. I don't really see much content about click-through rate optimization. Mostly it's about traffic, PPC, or conversion, which is all really important. But if no one ever clicks on the listing, you can run as much traffic as you want. You can have as great a converting listing as you want. But if you don't get the click, it doesn't matter. Those two things will do nothing for you.
Perfect. And before we dive into the content, I wanted to remind that at any time, if you like anything you will hear during this hour, this session, don't forget to hit like and subscribe below this video. Also, in the description, you will find the relevant links to Sophie Society, to what Chris is doing. So if at any time you want to check his website, you will find link below. And also, if you have questions and comments, don't forget to type them in and they will be answered. So now we are ready for
All right.
learning the hacks to improve click-through rate.
Nice. Let's rock and roll. I'm just going to make sure that you guys can see my screen okay here. Okay, nice. All right, so we're talking about basically today, the bottom line is getting free sessions to your listing. I actually saw the quote again today when I was posting on Instagram, and I saw the quote that the cheapest new sales or new traffic that you'll ever get is through increasing your click-through rate. And this wasn't meant for Amazon. It was meant for just general on the internet, but for internet sales. But it's true. People drive so much traffic and spend so much time figuring out how to optimize their PPC, optimize their external traffic. And you pay for every single click, right? It's pay per click. That's what PPC stands for. And you're paying per impression when you're paying CPM. And people don't even think about the fact that in between all of that traffic and in between and that conversion to an add to cart is this click. So increasing the click-through rate, it actually has a dramatic impact, and I'm going to show you guys how dramatic through an example here. So this is the magic 3 letters here, CTR. And there have been many 8 and 9 figure brands on Amazon that were built off of great click-through rates. Listings that just had thumbnails that were awesome click-through rates. And here is an example of one. The founder of this brand, or one of the co-founders of this brand, AJ Patel, was actually one of my first customers at my product launch software called Judo Launch back in the day. And he and I used to go to the same conferences, Ryan Daniel Moran's conference, and I think we spoke at the same conference a few times. And this is one of those moments where you like palm yourself in the face because, I lose contact with AJ. I don't talk to him for a couple of years. And then I see him in the news having sold his brand Zesty Paws for $600 million. And it was like a couple of years later. I think from inception to exit, for a $600 million exit, it took 6 years. So that's a great success story. And one of the primary driving factors of the success of this brand is a fantastic click-through rate. which I can tell you because this follows a lot of the principles that we're going to be going over today. And there are more examples like this as well, but I'm going to use them to as examples of specific principles to actually run you guys through a live experiment in a little bit. So be patient with me, and I'll give you guys some more examples of how powerful this is. And part of the reason it's so powerful is because so many sellers ignore it. Everybody's focused on traffic. Everybody's focused on PPC. Everyone's focused on conversion. So CTR just gets ignored, or it's viewed as just one of the many PPC metrics. It's not that. It's up on the same level with your conversion rate, your unit session percentage, the CTR. It shouldn't be viewed as just one of the many nerdy metrics that PPC managers geek out on. So I'm going to get into a little bit of psychology. Not going to bore you guys, so I'm going to go through this fast. But when you're talking click-through rate, it's a very different part of human psychology that you're dealing with than when you're dealing with conversion rate. With conversion rate, someone has already committed to checking you out. So it's still a large part of their decision to purchase is going to be emotional, but there's the logical reasoning frontal lobe section of their mind, of their psychology that's involved in that too. But when it comes to click-through rate, there's very little logical, rational reasoning involved. It's almost all in the what psychologists call the reptile part of the brain, the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain. And that's what you're dealing with. So it's a whole different science. You know, part of your conversion rate is showing the benefits of the product, showing the features of the product, what the X factors are and the unique selling propositions and what makes it different. That's not what you're doing when you're trying to optimize click-through rate. You're really just trying to, it's very animalistic. You're trying to get the click from the subconscious part of the brain that's not even thinking. And you'll notice this if you observe yourself shopping on Amazon too. When you're scrolling through search results and you're tapping on listings, and then you think, why did I tap on that? You will come up with some ridiculous reasons. If you really observe yourself like really well, and you go back and you think about, okay, why did I tap on that? You'll find some really silly reasons. And that's why some of this, it sounds so silly. That's why it's ignored. But that's why the brands that don't ignore it can grow to 9 figures in 6 years. So you guys are lucky that you're here listening to this, because most brands are completely ignoring this. And I mean, there's not, it's, you guys are part of a very small pool of sellers that are actually paying attention to this and view it as its own science. So if you're serious about this, you can get a real edge. So I'm going to do an experiment with you guys with your amygdalas right now, live, as you're watching this. So if this is on in the background, I need you to pull it up, full screen it, and view it live right now. Otherwise, you guys are going to miss out on this. You're going to lose the whole concept. Okay. So if you're watching this, pull it up. Don't leave it on the background. Pull it up, put your phone upside down, and listen up. All right. So we're going to do an experiment with you, and I'm going to prove to you how powerful this is. So in a second, I'm going to go to an empty slide. You're going to see an empty slide that will show for about 3 seconds. And then for 0.50 seconds, I'm going to flash an image on the screen, and then it's going to disappear. So it's only half a second you're going to get to see this image, okay? So this is going to happen in just a moment. And what I want you to do is tell me which of the listings stands out to you. What you're going to see is 4 listing thumbnails side by side. So we're going to call the leftmost one thumbnail 1, then thumbnail 2, thumbnail 3, and then the rightmost one will be thumbnail 4. Okay. So just from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I want you guys to pay attention right now. Look at your screen. I'm going to do this in a moment, and you're going to tell me which one stands out to you. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Did you catch that? Hope you didn't blink. If you did, you missed it. Now, before I go to the next slide and we discuss this, I want to get some results. So which thumbnail stood out to you guys? And Augustus, maybe you can read them out to me if people can type them in that are viewing this live. Which thumbnail stood out the most? And I want to hear what you guys have to say. And I bet you that I know which one it is. And you will see on the next slide, because we're going to use that as an example, so you'll know if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Yeah, let's wait for a few answers because there is a small delay. And okay, number 4, somebody said.
Okay.
Okay, waiting 3, orange, number 2. Okay,
Okay.
different answers. Completely. Okay, number 3 and orange, I think is the same.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's see. Still waiting for a few more. Orange color, somebody says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, number orange. Yeah, everybody, few me people say orange.
Okay, that would be number 3. So
Another
tally them up
orange,
for me, Augustus,
orange.
for the ones
Yeah,
that came up.
yeah.
How
So
many
how
are
many?
how many are 1? How many are 2? How many are 3? How many are 4?
So if orange is number 3, then we
Yeah.
have like I don't know, like 7 oranges, some number 3s, and 1 time 2, 1 time 4,
Okay.
and yeah.
All right. So it was overwhelmingly listing number 3. We got 7 votes for listing number 3, 1 vote for listing number 4, and 1 vote for listing number 2. Okay. So there's a clear winner here, right? An overwhelming winner by many multiples. And that is this third listing right here, the orange one. You guys only saw this for half a second. That's not enough time to read more than even a single word on this whole screen, let alone any all of them, or even all of the words on a single one of these product packages or a single one of the listings, right? So your rational mind had nothing to do with this whatsoever. And this is how it is when you're scrolling. You on average have a half a second or even less, down to 1/5 of a second, to see each of the listings that you're scrolling through. Your thumb is just going nonstop, right? We're all used to this motion when we're shopping on our phones. So you're dealing with the emotional centers, and you guys can see how powerful it is. One of these clearly stands out, and if it stood out on at a 7-to-1 ratio for the people live in this call, imagine what this is doing on a massive scale with millions of views over time. It's dramatic. It's a dramatic impact. We're not talking about 20% more, 30% more. We're talking about 300% better, 400% better, 500% better if you implement some of these tactics. And this is only one of them. You know, some people noticed that the orange color was the main thing that they noticed. But that's only one of many strategies we're going to talk about here that can optimize the click-through rate of your listing. So your listing thumbnail. So let's talk about this one. Why did this one stand out? Yes, it had the color, that color orange. It also had a shape that took up a lot of the white space in the listing thumbnail. So color and shape matter. And then the other thing is that you probably didn't notice, because this is one step further away from the subconscious and one step further to the conscious, but it's still not fully, your frontal rational thinking. It's still very subconscious, but a little bit closer to the surface, is the text on the packaging. So this is a thing on Amazon that changed over the last 3 years, is that people stopped reading text. I mean, no one's reading any text on Amazon. They might skim a few words. They might capture maybe half a dozen, at most a dozen and a half total words from the time that they're scrolling search results to the time they actually purchase. You have a small minority of like really intentful buyers or categories that are really high priced, where people actually do read words. But a vast majority of the sales and a vast majority of the shoppers are not reading words that are typed out on listings or even thumbnails anymore. They're just looking at images, and the only words they read are the words on the images, in the designed images. So this is something that a vast majority of sellers that I deal with don't get now. They just don't understand this yet, probably because the change happened so quickly. When I started selling on Amazon, it was all words in 2015. It was all about the words, all about the bullet points, the description, how you formatted it, what words you put in, how compelling your copy was. It's just not like that anymore, or it is only for a minority of sellers. Now, the most important thing is the images, and the text that's read is the text on the images. So let's analyze this. This has an image that has a color that catches the eye, right? It's packaging that fills the whole white space. And it's big words that describe the solution, not the brand. And this is a huge thing that I would say anywhere between 85 and 95% of sellers that come through our doors get this wrong. And this is kind of the sad reality. I mean, you look at this brand. This brand was actually acquired by Thrasio, Angry Orange. Thrasio is one of the biggest aggregators. It was actually the fastest growing company in US history to hit $1 billion valuation. I know the three founders well, because they helped me back when I was running my software company. And John Hefter was the person who overseed this acquisition in particular, Angry Orange. And one of the main things he did to turn this brand from a 7-figure brand to a mid 8-figure brand was change the packaging so that it would catch the eye. And yeah, it's that bright orange color. That's applicable to some categories. It's not applicable to all categories. Not everything can just be turned to a bright, like, safety vest orange, right? But it is applicable to a lot of categories. But look at another thing. What do you notice about the text on this packaging? The biggest text on this packaging, it doesn't have the brand name on it. It doesn't say anything about the brand name. The brand name is a small text. The biggest text is the solution. So it says stain remover. It says odor eliminator. It doesn't say Angry Orange huge. And you could see back in the day, before this brand was acquired, you could see this is what it was back when it was a 7-figure brand, a low single-digit 7-figure brand. And then on the left side, you can see this is what it looks like as an 8-figure brand. This is what it looks like to go from 7 to 8 figures on Amazon. So the biggest text on the packaging back in 2018 was Angry Orange. Guess what? No one cares. No one cares about you or your brand. They're going to Amazon to find a solution to a problem. So the biggest text on your packaging has to be a text that describes the solution, not the text of your little brand name that nobody knows. Okay, no one cares. I mean, that's just the hard reality. That's the hard truth. And when you accept that, you can rocket past the other brands that are still stuck in their own little ego world. So that's a huge case study right there, and one of my favorite success stories of click-through rate optimization. Here's some other things you can do. Now, we went over the stuff that's possible for pretty much every brand and has the greatest impact. Here's some things that you can do in addition to that are, some of them fit more in the gray area of Amazon's terms of service. So Amazon's image guideline says that the primary image needs to be solo product by itself with a white background. But if you search Amazon, you'll see for yourself that a lot of brands will bend these rules a bit. And I mean, I've dealt with hundreds of brands. We've done PPC service or conversion services for hundreds of brands that don't follow this, and nothing bad ever happens. Now, I'm not recommending that you guys violate Amazon's terms of service in any way. But what I'm telling you is the reality of the marketplace right now. And I'll show you guys some examples of this as well. So here's some other things. Adding the customer avatar into the image. Adding the primary use case of the product to the primary image. Adding a visual representation of the ingredients to the primary image, especially if it's a consumable. Or showing the product alongside the packaging. These are all things that you can do that are not as easy and straightforward as the other things that I mentioned earlier. But there are things that brands do to catch the click. And you can see, look at this. This is search results. I actually made this morning, so it was super relevant and not old. You can see, look at how many of the search results do things like this. But how many of them have the ideal customer avatar in the image? It looks to me, I would estimate it's like somewhere around 30% of the listing thumbnails have the customer avatar, which in this case is kids, because this is toy blocks for kids in the primary image. And that's not in line with Amazon's guidelines, because Amazon's guidelines is solo product, white background. So, but all these brands have been up there for plenty of time and they're still there. So this is an option. Now let's go back to this brand that I showed you in the beginning, Zesty Paws, is sold for $600 million. This is one of the biggest exits in Amazon brand history. There are a few others, one in skincare that was 300 million. I know Puracy sold for 100 million. So there's been quite a few 9-figure exits of Amazon brands. So this is totally possible in today's day and age. But this one was just massive. $600 million in our space is a lot. So look at what they're doing and how many of the recommendations that I just made earlier in the presentation they're following. I mean, you can't max out the white space in Amazon thumbnail more than these guys did. They literally made a fat, short cylinder that takes up the entire square. Viewed from the side, a cylinder is two-dimensional, looks like a square, right? And so it takes up the entire space. And what does the biggest text on the packaging say? Doesn't say Zesty Paws, doesn't say the brand name. That's small. It says the solution. It says probiotic bites. It says calming bites. It says mobility bites. It says what the customers are searching for. So they're clicking on it. They don't know the brand. They don't care what brand they buy. They care about solving their problem, right? So, and like I said before, they're not viewing the text in the actual title. They're only looking at the text that's in the image. So they might read one or two words or scan over it and get a sort of a subconscious idea of what the text in the title is, but they're not reading any of this text word for word anymore these days. So you can see how powerful this is, guys. I mean, for those of you that are really paying attention to this right now or watching the replay, you're lucky. You're lucky that you're paying attention to this, because I'm telling you, after having overseen over 2,600 launches on Amazon and serving hundreds of brands every quarter, most brands, 85 to 95% of brands, they just completely breeze past this, or they don't realize the power of it. And yeah, now you can see the other example that I was talking through, Angry Orange. You can see they follow the same. You can see they're trying to max out as much as possible with the shape of their container that they can. That white space, they're showing on the text the solution, not the brand name. And yeah, so that's primary image. Now that was a deep dive in primary image, but there's so much more that you can do, and we're going to go over that now. So here's where we get into kind of some of the fun stuff, some of the hacks. So the primary image stuff, you guys got to work on that. You know, that's kind of like a project that you would have as one of your major rocks if you follow EOS, or one of your major objectives of a quarter. You know, but this stuff that I'm about to teach you, this is stuff you could do tonight if you wanted to. You could literally get this done tonight, today, right now. Some of it you could get done in the next hour. So this stuff is cool. This stuff is cool because you can have an immediate impact on your click-through rate, like right now, while you're watching this. You could even, you know, apply for some of these like live while you're watching me right now, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go through badges and size bumping, and I'll tell you guys what size bumping means. We'll go through all the badges that you see on here. I'm not going to read through them all because we're going to go through them one by one. Plus a couple other little hacks, and I'm going to tell you guys what size bumping is. So first is called the small business badge. Most of you guys watching this are going to apply to this. A small minority of you poor souls are not going to, because you're doing more than 50 million a year in revenue, which for you guys, I just feel so sorry for you. But yeah, so in order to apply for this, you need to be doing under 50 million in revenue per year. This badge increases the size of your listing in mobile search results by anywhere between 8 and 12%, depending on the other elements on the listing. It requires brand registry or the handmade program for you to apply, but that's basically it. If you have a US entity, you're doing under 50 million a year in revenue, then you can get this badge. And all you have to do is request it. You have to include your merchant ID. You have to include, you basically have to say that you are doing under 50 million a year in revenue. And that's basically it. And you can get this just by requesting it from seller support. And once you're approved, all your products are automatically enrolled. This is worth it. It shows up not only on your listing thumbnail, which is that's the point with regards to this presentation that we're talking about, right? Because we're talking click-through rate, but it also shows on your listing. So separately, it can help with your conversion rate as well. Now, personally, I have not A/B tested its effect on conversion rate because I don't think it's a very meaningful amount that it changes the conversion rate. The real benefit here is the click-through rate for the listing thumbnail. That's what you're going for, especially in mobile. So yeah, just contact seller support, provide the name of your brand, the business address, the merchant token ID, and just let them know that you qualify as a small business, and Amazon will grant you this. Next is the Climate Pledge Friendly Badge. This is also free to enroll. It also increases the size of your listing and search results. You do need for this to get a certification before you can apply for this. So first you get a separate certification Then once you have the certification, you bring that certification to Amazon and you request this badge. So what certification do you get? How do you get them? Well, there's dozens of them that you can get. And this is why this is one that if your competitors don't have it, you can get really creative to get this one, the Climate Pledge Friendly badge, because there are dozens and dozens of certifying bodies and they all look at different things. So if you don't fit one, you can test another. If you don't fit that, you can test yet another one. The free way to do it and the most straightforward way is Amazon's own Compact by Design certification. You guys will find the requirements for that by just searching it. But it's geared towards brands that have compact packaging and sort of like sustainable packaging or minimal packaging. But if you don't meet that, you can look through the list of qualifying external third-party sustainability certifications and get one of those. Now, most of those you have to pay for. And most of those you'll pay probably around between $1,000 and $2,000 to get this. So it's not crazy expensive. And I'm telling you, it's worth it for the click-through rate improvement that you get. You guys want to do as much of this stuff that you're learning about in this presentation as you possibly can fit in. So yeah, and you can see this is what it looks like right here on this image on a listing thumbnail. It sits right above the small business badge if you have that, but below everything else. So we've had brands that just got this automatically, like Amazon just like automatically approved them. And we actually have one brand that we manage their PPC. They're doing really well. And one day everyone in the entire category had it. So I don't know what that was about. We didn't even apply for it or anything. We just showed up. Other brands, you have to work for it, and other brands you have to work even more because you have to go through these third-party certifying bodies and see which one you apply for. Then you have to deal with them individually and go through their own application process, then get that certification, pay for it, and then go to Amazon. But you should actually hope that it's hard, because the harder it is in your category, the more likely you are to be the only one who has it. And the cool thing about this badge is some categories, Amazon on desktop will actually show a separate section on page 1 of search results for climate pledge friendly products. So it can literally like rank you. Now this is by no means guaranteed, and it only shows up on desktop, which is 25% of traffic on Amazon right now this year. So it's not guaranteed, but it's yet another benefit that you could get from this badge. So.
And Chris, I wanted to comment that Owen, who is listening to this presentation, he says that he got a small business badge after listening to you some months ago, 12 months ago, and it took him 3 months to get it.
Oh, okay.
And about Climate Pledge, he says it's a bit more tricky and still ongoing. So he's still waiting probably.
It is more tricky. He's right about that. Yeah, I'm surprised it took him 3 months. They might have been like overwhelmed with applications at that point, because we've had brands that have gotten it like pretty much right away. But yeah, or they might have gotten more strict. But in any case, yeah, for Climate Pledge Friendly, this one, it can be tricky if you don't qualify for Compact by Design, Amazon's own. But that makes it even better, because that means that it's harder for your competitors to get it too. So you could see this is just like a small snippet of the different third-party certifying bodies that Amazon respects in order to qualify for this. But if you just search Climate Pledge Friendly certifications, this is like the first page that comes up. This is Amazon's own page, and you can scroll through. And I'm coming out with a huge, like 5,000 word ultimate guide on all of this stuff this week. And I'm going to be linking in there my favorite certifying bodies. So, yeah. So if you guys want to check that out, you can see what my favorite ones are if you don't know where to start and you don't apply for Amazon's own.
By the way, we got a comment by Owen. He says about Climate Pledge that Amazon approved it, but it just did not show for up to 3 months.
Yeah, that has happened to other brands in the mastermind I mentioned earlier. Yeah, where it's approved, but it doesn't show. Again, 3 months sounds really long. I don't think I've heard of it taking that long, and it certainly hasn't with any of our brands in the past. But yeah, like I said, it's very fickle, because yeah, we had a brand that just showed up one day and we did nothing. And then, yeah, other brands, like, they have to apply for all these different third-party certifications and wait for Amazon to approve it and stuff like that. So depends on what category you're in.
And by the way, we
Yeah.
have a comment from Jeff Allen. He says, "Thanks, Chris. I have watched most of your content and I always learn something new." So
Nice. Cool. Thanks, bro. Awesome.
all right.
Awesome. Love that. Cool. So yeah, so we'll keep going through some of these X factors. There's the clickable coupon. This is available to all brands. It catches the eye with that neon green stripe. And you can do any discount down to 5%. So if you're worried and you're like, well, I can't afford to do that because I can't do, a big discount on my product. My margins are already thin. It's really worth it to have because the improvement you get on click-through rate is significant. Our data shows that it's not a minimal change. Now, it does depend on the category, but it can be a pretty dramatic change, especially if other brands in your category don't have this. And you can go down to 5%. So if anything, just do the minimal possible discount that you're allowed to do and just leave it on there. And again, another thing is only 60% of purchasers actually redeem the discount, even though it's as easy as clicking or tapping a box. Okay, and this is just from our own data, looking at how many redemptions we get on average. Some brands it can go up to 70%. Some brands it might be 50%, but it's in that range, and it's on average about 60%. So if you're doing a 10% discount, if you average it across all of your units for that product, it's actually effectively a 6% discount. So that helps it a lot as well. But the benefits you get from this are great. I mean, the benefits from this particular little strategy are outsized because this one actually does have a significant impact on both click-through rate and conversion rate. So the data shows that it affects both. Like you guys heard me say before, small business badge, it shows up on your listing and on your listing thumbnail. So it can affect both hypothetically, but we have not found it to have like a very big impact on the conversion rate. It's mostly for the click-through rate. This one, on the other hand, is both. So just do the minimal. I recommend everybody listening to this just do the minimum allowable discount. Dollar amounts tend to work better than discount percentages off. The only time I would say do percentage off instead of dollar amount is if it's a very low priced product and the dollar amount would sound ridiculously low. So we can see this one here, $3 off. And that was probably the minimum they were allowed to do because it's they probably could have gone down to 2 because 5% is the lowest you can do. So, but again, this increases the height of the mobile listing search result. And yeah, you can see this is what it looks like on the listing itself. So only that should be 60%, not 6%. Only 60% of shoppers that land on this and purchase it are actually going to redeem it, which is, it's funny because it's so easy. I guess that's how lazy people are, or they're just missing it. They don't know how to use it. But so now I'm going to take like a little break. And now that we've gone over a couple of these, climate pledge friendly, small business, and the coupon, you could see how these things stack up to make your listing take up more space. Now, this is what I meant by size bumping. And we've done a lot of research on this internally at Sophie Society. And this actually makes a big difference. It's very hard to pull out the difference that's being made from the effect of the badge itself versus the fact that the listing is bigger. But my hypothesis is, and the data seems to support it, is that the larger size of the listing actually does make a bigger difference. And you could see here, like, even with just these 3 strategies, and these aren't the only ones, there are more that you can do. In fact, you can size bump all the way up to 70% bigger than a listing with no size bumping. So it's like literally approaching double the size. It's crazy. This one, you could see, on the left, we're looking at a listing with no size bumping at all. It has no climate pledge friendly, no small business, no clickable coupon, right? In the middle, you see a listing with both the climate pledge friendly and the small business. Now, I picked listings that were 1-to-1 except for that, because there are other things that affect the size of the listing in search results besides badges, including the length of the title, including subscribe and save, including even discounts that you put on it, and other things we're going to go over in a minute. But I chose 1-to-1. So this is a true representation of size bumping in action. And it's literally just because of these badges. And then the one on the right, you could see has got all three of the things we just went over. And that one is 27% bigger. Okay. So it's almost like you took that listing, chopped it in thirds, and added another section of those thirds to it, to make 4 of those sections. So it's pretty insane. It's an insane change. And like I said, if you do all of the things I'm mentioning, you can get up to 70%, which is absolutely absurd. You can get to the point where in listing search results, you're the only listing really showing, and only a part of the next listing is actually showing on one full screen, which is wild. Because if you were to do the same thing scrolling search results with listings that don't have any size bumping, usually it's 3, sometimes even 3 plus listing thumbnails that are showing at once. So you're literally crowding out other options. And when you're talking about an attention economy where people are scrolling and they're kind of almost randomly scrolling like monkeys and just tapping on what looks good to the emotional centers in their brain, this has a dramatic impact. And you guys saw earlier in the presentation how 8 and 9 figure brands are built off the back of some of these principles. So it's really powerful. And most brands miss this. So let's go back here and dig back into it. So another thing that affects the size of the listing and the click-through rate is strike-through price. So you can't have a strike-through price going 24/7. Amazon, you used to be able to actually, but Amazon really cracked down on this. Now the price has to be lower than the median price for the last 90 days. So if you were to continually have a strike-through price, you'd eventually go down to 0, which obviously is not possible. But this can be done intermittently. And when it is, not only does it provide, a discount, which all online shoppers are looking for, but it also provides another color on the listing. And again, I told you guys a lot of this stuff sounds silly. Oh, another color. Like, what are we, 5? Well, yeah, our brains are 5. Our brains, we're talking to the reptile centers in the brain, not the rational centers. So you're not dealing with adults here. You're dealing with like drunk 6-year-olds. So having another color on the listing thumbnail, it is actually significant. So you could see in the listing thumbnail that I have here as an example, this is for Sigmatic coffee. There's the price, which is in black. That's how it typically is. But then it shows the discount in bright red, negative 19%, minus 19%. And then underneath, it shows the strike-through price of what the old price was. And this is what's actually bumping the size. So it's another line which creates that space to bump the size of this listing and make it even bigger. So it adds more color, increases the vertical size. But again, you can't have these going nonstop. It's got to be lower than the median price of the last 90 days. So yeah, and this is what happens when you add just the strike-through price. So strike-through price adds about 10%. Again, this varies. It depends on the category. It depends on the other elements of the listing. So a lot of things can affect this, but it's in most of them are all in the range of between 8 and 15% that one single change can have in general. Now check this out. This is what I was talking about. When you really add these things up, this is an example where if literally you guys could take a screenshot of this and measure it with a pixel measure, you would see it's 70% bigger. So this is an increase of 70% the size of the listing. That's massive. You can see on the left side, I can see 3 listings. On the right side, I see 1 and part of the other. So it's a huge impact and really significant. So yeah, this is the wow moment. Now, there are some other things that you can do as well. I didn't because I wanted to keep this very succinct. And I'm also coming out with, a 5,000 word article on this. That's an ultimate guide. So you guys can, spend hours digging deep into that if you need. That'll be released on LinkedIn for those of you guys who are really interested in that. Just follow me on LinkedIn. You'll find that. But so I'm not going to go into all of these, but there are other badges you can do as well. And some of these have really dramatic impacts on click-through rate, like the bestseller badge. I remember, so the first time I ever got the bestseller badge, it was with my first brand. And I had no idea what was going on when I opened up my seller app. My sales were, I think it was like somewhere between 50 and 70% higher than average every day that I had the badge. Now, it's not always going to be that crazy, but this badge has a dramatic impact I mean, a seriously dramatic impact. And that's why I don't include this in the how-to, because the fight for this badge is a dirty, dirty game. And your competitors will play dirty to get this badge. Some strategies for getting this badge. Basically, the only two things that you can do to get this badge are: one, dramatically increase your sales until you're selling more than anybody else in your subcategory. That's the real way to get it. Only one person in a subcategory can have this, and you got to be the top seller. But the other way is to change your subcategory. So if your product could fit into multiple different subcategories, and it's kind of ambiguous, is it in the category of boys learning toys, or is it in the category of girls learning toys, or is it learning toys, or is it building blocks, and you can mess with the category a bit. Then you could use tools like Helium 10 to find out what the top sellers are doing in that category. And if you think you can beat it, you basically choose the one that's easiest to beat. And then you gun for the bestseller badge in that category. Now, again, this is going to be impossible for most of you guys. I've done it successfully multiple times, but it's difficult and it's cutthroat. The bestseller badge increases your sales dramatically, but it also puts a big bullseye on your forehead, and it makes everyone want to copy you, everyone try to gun for your spot, and it's honestly a scary place to be. I'll tell you, it's nerve-wracking to have the bestseller badge, but if you can get it and you can keep it, it has a great impact. There's another badge, number 1 new release, that you can get within the first 90 days of launching, depending on your sales velocity alone. There's a badge that Amazon came out with. You could tell it's, part of its corporate good program, and it's the Black owned business badge. Now, obviously, you can only get this if you are Black and you own a majority of your business. And I have not gone through the process with any of our brands of getting this. Obviously, I don't personally apply to it, but any of the brands that we've dealt with, I have not had a brand that was able to get this badge yet. So I'm not personally familiar with the process of getting it, but I know that if you have a Black owned business, Amazon has a special program and they will add this badge to your listing and your listing thumbnail. And if you are applicable for it, I do recommend definitely trying to get it, because anything you can get to get more eyeballs, to get more clicks, play every card you're dealt. And then there's Amazon's Choice Badge. Amazon's Choice Badge is for the best choice for a specific keyword. So you have Amazon's Choice Badge specifically for search terms. And, the science of this, I've never fully cracked a hack for getting Amazon's Choice Badge personally. I knew a lot of sellers inside masterminds that I was in that used Alexa, because it was based on voice purchasing, voice-based shopping to get the Amazon's Choice Badge. And it was the product that people most got via Alexa shopping when they were voice shopping for a particular solution. But we've been able to get it internally in Sophie just by driving a lot of purchases from a particular keyword. We got the Amazon's Choice Badge just by doing that. So that's our chosen strategy. I've never used the voice shopping hack. I do know sellers who have claimed to have done that. I've never seen the evidence of it working myself. But so there you go. That's all the information that I have on these other badges. There are even more badges than this that I didn't even include. There's top brands that Amazon was experimenting with over the past year. They're so rare and few and far between, and your amount of the ability to control these badges is so much less than the ones we went over earlier. The ones we went over earlier, the small business badge, climate pledge friendly, the clickable coupon, the strike through price, these are all things you guys have full control over. If you work hard enough, you can get all those things. The ones that you're seeing here, these ones, you have sort of proxy control over a couple of degrees removed. So you have less of a chance of getting all these. So yeah, there you go. I wanted to also let you guys know, those of you guys that are watching live or are watching, pretty quickly after the replay, we're hosting a 5-day challenge next week that is unlike anything you've ever seen in the space before. We go through a lot of these hacks even deeper, but we also go through complete frameworks for how to take control and understand your PPC and how to deal with your PPC, including specific recipes to use in specific situations based on where your product is at in your Amazon product lifecycle on the marketplace. And this is really like unlike anything else. This is not like top 10 SEO blog article BS that you guys find when you search Amazon PPC online. This is stuff that comes directly from our lab. You know, we have hundreds upon hundreds of brands that we're dealing with every single month, and we are a PPC shop. So we run our own internal mastermind, and we're dealing with the hard realities of the Amazon PPC marketplace every single day. So we have the most up-to-date knowledge, and we're basically taking our internal playbook and opening it up to everyone for 5 days. It's a private capped challenge. It will sell out this week, probably around the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday. It's based on current sales velocity. It will sell out, and we will close the doors when it sells out because we are keeping an 8-to-1 participant to mentor ratio, meaning for every one mentor, there are no more than 8 participants. And we do that because every single person that registers for this challenge is a name, not a number. We make sure that everybody gets their problem solved. And I personally make sure that with the dozens of mentors that we have coming in, many of them from Sophie, who are actually dealing with millions of dollars of ad spend themselves, get people's issues solved. It's not just like a webinar that you keep on in the background. This is a high engagement, interactive event that goes for 5 days. And we also have every single day office hours where you can come and you have access to the top guys in this space in the world. I'm not kidding you. Like, these are the guys that are actually doing this, running ads for huge brands with years and years of experience in Amazon PPC under their belt, including myself. And you can actually bring your own problem or your own situation and figure out what you need to do next or solve your particular problem next during these office hour sections each day. And also throughout the entire 5 days, we have a 24/7 chat going with all the mentors in there. And again, we keep that 8-to-1 ratio so that everybody gets personalized attention. Last time we did this, we had mentors recording looms for people, sending voice notes to them about their search term reports and all kinds of stuff. So it's super, super valuable format. And I really hope that I see some of you guys there who are really committed to improving your PPC. And one thing is, this is only for active sellers that currently have ad spend. If you're an aspiring seller, then I would hold off. And next time, you know, I'm sure that we will host this again. You're welcome to come once you're up and running, but this is only for active sellers with current ad spend. And in addition to that, you are required to engage. So if this is not something you can commit to showing up every day, then don't apply, because we are only looking for sellers who are committed to their own success and who are able to actively engage with the mentors, with other participants for these 5 days and come out completely transformed. So we'll actually be removing sellers that don't engage or don't show up. Like I said, everyone is a name, not a number. We notice when you're there or when you're not there, if you're doing the assignments, if you're not, if you're doing the exercises, if you're reading the handouts, if you're opening the emails, if you're showing up to the sessions. So it is some amount of commitment, but I can promise you that after the 5 days, you'll be transformed. So in order to check that out, just take out your phone, scan this QR code here, or you can check the link in the description if you're watching the replay, and see if it's right for you.
Thank you, Chris. And indeed, we will put a link in the description as well for easier to find it easier. And what else? Yeah, everyone who enjoyed the content and you think that you will implement those tips in your Amazon listings, don't forget to like this video so that more people see this and more sellers get the conversion rate increase. Of course, you don't want probably your competitors to get better CTR, but
yeah, right, true. Might want to keep it to yourself, in fact.
And you are showing another QR code for?
Yeah, no, this is only if you have questions about what I mentioned in this presentation. I'm really good with voice notes. I am a real person. So you can hit me up via this email address, hello@sophiesociety.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram by scanning this code or typing in Hippie Mogul, which is my handle. And I send voice notes. So if you have questions, I'll send a quick voice note to you regarding this. I'm happy to help you guys out.
Perfect. And I see we have a few more questions for you. And I also wanted to mention that we will see you in person in Prague in
yes
teleconference. Yeah. So I hope
that's
you
right.
are
I'm very
coming.
excited for that. Finally, after years. That was the last event I went to before the world shut down in 2020. I
Yeah,
was
it
like, am
was.
I going to get stuck in Prague for a year? And I think, in fact, I wouldn't have been so sad to be stuck in Prague. Prague is a very cool place.
Yeah, the last event was happening in March
March.
2020, and it was exactly during the COVID was chopping up, like cutting us into pieces
That
because it was
day,
in the
it
yeah
was
that
it
day.
was those 2-3 day period where the whole
Yeah,
world shut down, like right all at once, right in those 3 days. It was crazy.
yeah. All right, so let's see. Let's take some questions.
Cool.
Feel free to switch off your screen sharing so you can see
Yep.
also the screen.
Yes.
First, Limbesh says, "Thank you for sharing your wisdom." He's probably happy and will hopefully, Limbesh, you will implement the hacks in your listings. Mudassir wants to know, do we need to show Amazon our revenue for small business batch?
So sometimes they will request it, sometimes they won't because they just assume by looking at you, they have access to your numbers.
Mhm.
But if you're close to that threshold, they'll request it.
All right. Next
Request proof.
question is from Dominic. I tried to the clickable coupon last week because I wanted to display it like this green badge, but it did not work like that. It was displaying on the SERP
Mm,
just in the detail page. So not in the search results, but in the
yep.
detail page, yes. So do you know why?
Yeah, I have seen that before. I don't know what causes this, but it does happen in certain categories. And sometimes I've even seen it where in the category it will sometimes show up, or on certain devices it will show up, and on certain devices it won't. So I don't know what the cause is, but that is something that happens, Dominic. So what I would do is, first of all, try to search it a number of different ways. Try it on your tablet, try it on your phone, try it on your computer, but in incognito mode, and see if it's showing up, but just not sometimes. I mean, there's sometimes that I search and the add to cart button doesn't even show up on mobile search results, and sometimes it does. So, Amazon can be finicky. Amazon can be weird. If it's not showing up now, it doesn't mean that it'll never show up. It just, I honestly, I don't know what the underlying cause is, but I have seen that before.
Mhm. Next question from Dominic is, do I need to use absolute discount in US or euros, or will it also work with discount in percentage?
You could do percentage or dollar amount. You have a choice. Just go into your Seller Central console, go to advertising, then go to coupons, and you'll see the whole setup flow there.
And Mudassir is just happy about the content, amazing content, he says. And Owen has a
Nice.
question. My small business batch has not carried over from my source marketplace in UK to US. Do I need to apply separately to have it applied on my products in US?
Yep, apply separately in the US through Seller Central, and they'll put it on
Okay.
there.
And Hussein wants to know, how do we create vertical image for better mobile view if we have
Mm.
square image in packaging?
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic as well. So I went over this as part of another presentation that we did together, Augustus, is that sometimes if you input a vertical image and you have these size bumping factors in place, you could take up even more by filling the white space on top of and below the product. But then sometimes it doesn't. This is the really glitchy thing. There are certain categories, like we were looking at home decor the other day, and there was a wall hanging, like a long wall hanging, and they had these size bumping, whether they did it intentionally or not. They had them working, and this wall hanging was taking up like the whole vertical white space. But there are other examples, like the ones I was showing today with the organic coffee, where the image actually is vertical. It's a coffee like satchel that's a vertical image, but Amazon treats it as a square image and doesn't let it take up the entire vertical space. So sometimes that works alongside size bumping, sometimes it doesn't. So first of all, for Hussein's question, if you have square packaging, I wouldn't try to make long vertical packaging just to try to fill up that white space, because it's not guaranteed. Amazon might crunch you into a square space anyway and just put white space on top of and below, and that's okay. It's actually best if you looked at the example I used, Zesty Paws. The square is kind of the safest way to go. If you take up the most possible amount of white space in the square, then you have the greatest possibility of taking up the most white space on both mobile and desktop search results. So I would, if you're lucky, if you have square packaging, it's actually best.
All right. And I think we finished with questions. Dominic says, thank you so much. And yeah, once again, I wanted to remind that the link to Sophie Society and PPC Challenge, which Chris is doing with his team very soon, you'll find below in the description. And I don't know what else we forgot. Maybe remind one more time how people can get help from you.
Yeah. You can just email hello@sophiesociety.com. And yeah, that goes to me and my team. So any additional documentation, or if you wanted to check out that article that I mentioned, happy to send it over to you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
And see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. See you, bro. See you guys. Thank you.
And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Chris, which will give you even more hacks and tricks and recommendations.